Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of The Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of my past guests have included Philip Hecker of Bento Engine, Spencer Siegel of Actify, and Max Klein of Leah. Today, I'm speaking with Jason Early, the founder of RISR. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using Quick, you'll be able to generate completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. All right, Jason Early is the founder and CEO of RISR and has spent his entire career in financial services solving problems for financial advisors. RISR has been named by Investment News Best New Technology and Jason as one of their 40 under 40. Dude, congratulations. That's awesome. He started his career with an advisory firm in Philadelphia, where he spent 7 years as a managing director. From there, he joined an e-learning and consulting firm, and prior to founding RISR, he was the president of a leading wealthtech firm that pioneered private company valuation services. Jason, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Rich, thanks for having me, man. I'm pumped to be here.
Oh, we're going to have a great conversation. For those who haven't heard my podcast, I love to talk to business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. So Jason, I want to understand your business a lot better. How does your company help people?
What a great question, and one that we think an awful lot about, to be honest. I mean, we have an entire team of people that wake up every single day thinking about how to solve problems for our customers and create better outcomes for our customers and ultimately their customers. So, we are in the wealth tech space like a lot of your guests, and our belief is that business owners need better advice and that the advisors that serve them need better tools and technology. And so to that end, our customer is the financial advisor and their customer is the business owner. And so we help advisors by bringing, far more clarity to their clients' most important asset, their business. And as a result, we're, in the fortunate position where our clients create far better outcomes for their business owner clients who are in desperate need of their advice today. When you think about some of the demographics, right? If you were to walk up and down Main Street in any small town USA, you'd get a real good feel for who's powering that economy, and it's small businesses. And the demographics are such that all of those business owners are transitioning and transacting. And that asset is far more important to the owner of that business than they're holding in pick your favorite stock. And so they really need to be thoughtful about how to transition that asset. And so their advisors need better tools and technology. And so that's how we help people. We help advisors, gain clarity into that asset and provide better advice to business owners.
Jason, as you're mentioning all this, something occurred to me I've never thought to ask before. I used to be an advisor, and you always think, oh, I want to go after high net worth people with a lot of money, et cetera. What percentage of the people that are high net worth or that are being that advisors are trying to attract are actually business owners? Do you know?
Yeah, so we got a couple stats that we think that we use to kind of support this, because you're exactly right? At the end of the day, advisors want to serve wealthy people, and wealthy people own businesses. I think it's something to the effect of 65 or 66% of millionaires own businesses, but the perhaps more impactful or more eye-opening number is 89% of people worth $30 million or more are business owners. And so again, to your point, the wealthiest people own businesses, right? And that's not counterintuitive to people, but what we do hear all the time and what we love to push against is advisors will say things like, well, forget the business owner, all the wealth is tied up in the business. And that's simply not true. Right? Perhaps on a percentage basis it is, but at the end of the day, again, to your point, wealthy people own businesses. They have assets outside of that holding. And then again, they make, so our point is always business owners make incredible clients while they operate. And then there's a cherry on top at the end, if in fact they do get liquidity from that asset.
So what is it that you think advisors lack? Because advisors are business owners too, aren't they? So what is it that they're lacking that they can help their customers better with that RISR's doing for them?
Well, it's clarity. So, advisors are put in a difficult position again, without RISR or tools like it. Advisors have to treat the business like every other asset on the balance sheet. And so it might sound, discovery might sound something like this, Rich, which is, all right, you and I are meeting and you own a business and I start asking you questions, and it's our belief that the best advisors ask the best questions. But what's in the 401k, what's in the brokerage account, what's your house worth, what's your business worth? And again, they're treating that asset like every other asset on the balance sheet.
Can I tell you something funny about that? I met with an advisor years ago, yeah, like 15 years ago, and I had my company for 23 years now. And we were going through that same questionnaire, right? And then he's like, "What's the value of your business?" I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "I'm going to put $1 million down." I'm like, "Okay, it's probably worth more than that in the long run, but whatever." So now I have a net worth statement over $1 million. I'm like, this makes zero sense to me. I don't have net worth over $1 million. I don't have tangible money. Like, what does this mean to me as an owner?
Yeah, I think it's look, this is the problem that we set out to solve. Advisors treat this asset like a plug-in number, and that's unjust and insane in our view. I mean, to your point, I started my career with an incredible firm here in Philadelphia. Large RIA, ton of planning work, and hundreds of millions of dollars a year in insurance premium. They did planning almost exclusively with business owners. So I started my career with a front row seat into how the best in the advice business give advice to business owners. And it was scary as hell, meaning they'd walk into a room and they'd say, "All right, Rich, what's the business worth?" Just like this. And you'd say, "God, I don't know, 30, 40 million bucks." And we'd be like, "All right, cool. We'll use 35 for the plan." And that's insane, right? So when you think about this asset and what it means to the owner of the business, not only is it, their blood, sweat, tears, they've poured everything into this asset. It's got huge emotional ties, far far greater than any other holding that they have. But it dramatically impacts their financial plan, right? Be it their retirement plan, their estate plan, their legacy plan, all of the, it has huge implications across all of that. And advisors are using back of the napkin math to put a plug-in number. It makes no sense. And so again, for a long, long time, one, advisors have kind of gotten away with it. Two, a lot of advisors have ignored the business owner. But that isn't the case anymore. All of financial services is starting to surround the business owner because this demographic tidal wave is happening. And so every advisor on the planet wants to be the one that captures and manages the asset when a business owner exits. But what they're realizing is I better be there now providing advice. And so there's a real migration towards the business owner to give advice, and advisors are lacking the tools and technology to do so.
So what I'm hearing, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but what I'm hearing is RISR is helping bring definable meaning to that asset, the business, for the client that owns it. Because here's another perspective on it. When I was an advisor, I'd talk to my clients, okay, you have net worth in your house, but unless you intend to sell your house at retirement, it's not going to help you in retirement. So it's the same thing with a business. Like, do you intend to sell your business or not? Do you expect to get cash flow indefinitely from it? Because cash flow, I mean, that's what we're after in retirement at the end of the day, I think. So I'm curious, like, how are you helping advisors have those conversations around what does the asset mean to you long run? And do you have to sell it? And I'm wondering if you even know, like, is there a majority of people who want to sell their business? Is that part of their retirement?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of proprietary data around some of that stuff, and I'll talk about it. But at its simplest form, right? It's to the earlier point. It's about clarity, and so we want to help advisors better understand the asset. And so we think that begins and ends with the value of the business. Meaning, you have to understand the value of the business today as kind of the linchpin. But we do think there's a more important number, and you alluded to it, which is that's great. Your business is worth $10 million today. But based on everything you told me, retirement income, legacy, philanthropic, all this other stuff that you want to accomplish, the business needs to be worth 15 or 20 million. Meaning, here is how the business fits into your overall wealth plan. And so we think that's critically important. The next piece that we think is really important is risk, meaning all of these businesses have operational risk, but they also have equity risk, meaning all of these privately held businesses, most of them have a buy-sell agreement or an operating agreement, but very few of them are funded, meaning they haven't protected the equity value that they've built up in this business. God forbid something happens to them. And I grew up in the life insurance business, and an old mentor of mine used to say, if you don't say God forbid at least 3 times a day, are you really in the life insurance business? But that's a reality for most of these businesses. They have unfunded buy-sell agreements, and so the equity is at risk. But again, the operational risk is equally as important. Do they have owner dependency? And you talked about this. Most businesses don't have they haven't created transferable value because the business depends on them. And so they have got to reduce the owner dependency. They've got to reduce customer concentration risk and all of those things. But then most importantly is this point that you started with, which is, do they have a succession and exit plan? And 75% of businesses don't. And so what does that mean? Every business owner exits their business someday, some way, right? And the reality is most don't sell. So only 23% of businesses that go to sell actually sell or transact. So what does that mean? If most businesses aren't selling to private equity and getting the headlines in the newspaper, what's happening? Well, they're transitioning to the next generation. They're transitioning to employees, or again, God forbid, they're just shutting the doors and moving on. And that can be an okay thing, by the way, because again, if you go back to the earlier part of the platform, if they're, if the current value of the business is, greater than the goal value or the dream value, or exceeds their wealth plan, that's a wonderful thing. Meaning they have pulled enough money out of the business over time. They've used the cash flows of that business to fund their retirement. They've got incredible optionality, and so that's a great thing. But again, in our view, far too often the outcome for the owner doesn't align to stated goals and objectives. And so our platform helps the advisor and the business owner prioritize things like whether it's cash optimization at exit, whether it's legacy, whether it's continuity of the business. It helps them stack those in order and tailor a plan that meets those goals and objectives.
Yeah, and you're also giving people a head start. If you're having an advisor work with a business owner in their 30s, 40s, 50s, well before they want to sell or retire or transition, you're probably giving them a lot of capability to plan ahead and think ahead versus so many people. I mean, this is true of advisory firms too, right? They get into their mid to late 50s, they're at the peak, and they start actually losing value in their business because they're not thinking about how to sell or transition. And then suddenly like, hey, I want to retire. What do I do? And you want to maximize value for them, right?
Yeah, look, it's the old best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And so the reality is, the best businesses operate like they're always like they're ready to sell. Meaning if somebody knocked on your door today and said, Rich, I want to give you 10 million bucks for your business. Is that a good number? Is that a bad number? Does it meet your goals? Does it not meet your goals? If they said, I want to offer you 10 million bucks, but I want to do, 30 days of diligence on your business. Are you ready to do diligence? Like, can you open up the books? Can you, let them in under under the hood? And are they going to like what they see? Most business owners, the reality is they don't know if that's a good or a bad offer because they don't have a good understanding of the value of the business. They aren't ready for diligence, meaning they don't have tight housekeeping around, operational procedures and bookkeeping and all of these kind of relatively table stakes things. And so again, it's our view that the best businesses are operating as if they're always ready to sell. And so that comes with planning and intention. And most don't stop to think about that.
Hey, for the record, 10 million is way too low for quick. So just anybody listening, just know, way too low.
From what I know, I agree wholeheartedly.
I want to switch gears a little bit here because Outside the show, you and I have talked, and there's a belief or philosophy or ethos about you and your company that I want to tap into here. You told me your customer is the advisor, but you're getting this tremendous impact to the end consumer of that advice. Tell me about how you think about that, like designing your product and service so that more than just your core customer wins.
Everything we do is to deepen the relationship between advisor and business owner. And so everything we build is for the advisor. We believe deeply in advice, and we were very intentional about this, meaning there is all sorts of ways to attack this problem. We chose to attack the problem from the lens of financial advice because we believe that the financial advisor plays an absolutely critical role in helping these businesses plan and transition and transact effectively. And so none of it works in our view without the financial advisor. And so to that end, everything that we do is for the advisor. But to your point, we get this added benefit that the work that the advisor then does makes a tremendous impact on their communities. And so the business owners that desperately need their advice are getting these far greater outcomes because they are working with an advisor that's leveraging our technology. And so we're seeing, an understanding of the value of business. We're seeing increases to the value of their business. We're seeing, the equity value of these businesses get protected. We're seeing operational risks be mitigated. And then we're seeing successful transitions that, again, align to stated goals and objectives of that business. So back to the earlier comment, walk up and down Main Street and you start to get a good feel for what's powering the economy in that community. And it's these small to medium-sized businesses. And when they have great outcomes, the community is better for it. And so, yeah, we love that we build and have technology and product for the advisor. And we love that it enables better advice and better outcomes for the businesses that they serve. And so, we're lucky in that regard.
No, I share this because one of my own motivations, as I asked myself, should I remain a financial advisor or should I pursue the software with Quick? And honestly, one of my main motivations was if I'm an advisor, I can help 100, 200 people, families. If I do software for advisors, I can help millions of families.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I can do more good that way. I'm curious from your standpoint. I mean, if you take all that into context, from a product standpoint, do you actually talk to business owners to learn like what else they need to put into your product then? Do you include them in your discovery?
We do. We talk to business owners, but then, the next, step, if you will, because there is a whole host of things that business owners care about. But for it to end up in our product, whether it's the UI, the UX, or it's in the client deliverables, for it to end up in there, it also has to hit on, first the business owner has to care about it and be demanding it and wanting information and wanting resources on it. The second piece, the second vector that it has to hit on is the advisor confident and competent talking about it? Does it lead the advisor down the path of conversations that they want to have? This is actually, quite frankly, in our view, our biggest differentiator, right? Which is to say, there's a lot of great companies in and around our space. I mean, if you look at the explosion of company creation, just look at the Kitsis tech map as an example. I mean, I don't know if that is 2, 3, 5, 10x over the last 5 or so years, but there has been a tremendous amount of companies sprouting up to solve problems on behalf of advisors, which is a wonderful thing. And because of the fact that, again, the business owner is getting so much attention, you're seeing a lot of companies operate in this space, and they're attacking it from all sorts of different lenses, which is, again, a beautiful thing. We think that we are the only ones that really attack the problem through the lens of financial advice, meaning are we launching advisors into conversations that they want to be having with the business owner? Are we launching advisors into planning related conversations? Because again, if just the business owner cares about it, like there are things that the business owner cares about that the advisor doesn't want to talk about. And so we want to make sure that they hit on both of those vectors for it to end up in our experience. Otherwise, what happens? The advisor just doesn't use it. They don't talk about it, and the impact isn't there.
Yeah. And the customer feels like they're not getting the right input, reactions, et cetera.
100%.
I'm blanking on who I interviewed on this show to talk about taxes, but I mean that's one of those discussions, right? Business owners are wrapped up in taxes as part of their wealth planning strategy. Do you guys do that? Do you guys handle any of the tax aspect?
There are elements of tax planning woven throughout our platform. We, to today, perhaps by the time this airs, we will have rolled out our tax planning module. And so there is more as it relates to tax planning coming into our experience. And so really about, cash flows and understanding, the cash flows of the business and how that impacts, your taxes annually, and then certainly as you start to think about the exit, right? There's tax considerations around that, and so we'll have some modeling in there around that, and this is again one of our core beliefs. We're watching it happen in real time, which is these worlds are colliding, right? You're seeing financial advice and tax planning. We're seeing RIAs all over the country acquire tax planning practices and tax and CPA firms. Why? The market's demanding it, right? The customers are asking for it. I've long, I don't know if it's controversial or not, but I've never believed much in kind of the fee compression or that there was pressure on fees that advisors are charging. What I do believe is that the consumer or the market is asking for far more services from their advisor. And so that's why you see the advent of a lot of companies like us or some of these specialized planning softwares, be it in the estate planning market, in the tax planning market, whatever it might be. So these advisors are bolting on service offerings, and tax planning is one of these areas that some advisors still resist and say you got to talk to your CPA, and others are diving in and saying no, this is critical to how you think about your financial plan, and we gotta have a seat at the table. And so we think that this is a really important part of our platform and something that we're, really excited to roll out and start getting feedback on.
I don't expect that I'm ever going to go back to becoming a financial advisor, but I know in my heart that if I did, tax would be a big part. I'd have to have either a tax person on my team or I'd have to learn a lot more about it because it's such a huge part of the planning of your cash flow and your valuations, et cetera. I want to switch gears one more time here because over the last 2 years, I've asked people, how are you using AI in your business? And I absolutely want to ask you that, Jason, but I want to ask you a slightly different question now. I think the use of AI is becoming so prominent, especially across business owners. I want to know how you're seeing AI being used by business owners to answer the questions that RISR and the advisory firm should be answering. And if that's creating conflict or issues, or are you seeing anything like that?
Quite frankly, I don't know that I have a great answer in terms of how business owners writ large are using AI. What I would tell you is, obviously, it's incredibly powerful. And so, to the extent you want to go and leverage some of these large language models, to understand the value of your business, you very certainly could. I think overall, and what's important is being able to pull it all together in the right context, meaning what's the value, what does the value need to be, how does it impact my overall financial plan, how does that impact my succession and exit plan. And so again, I think that there's a lot of context there that matters. But yeah, I mean, look, it is amazing the speed at which we're seeing some of these developments and watching the models leapfrog each other. It's an incredible time. I'm sure you see it to be building software.
Look, I have a theory about this, and this theory is partly my own filter perspective. Yeah. But my theory is that smart people and business owners, I think, are generally very smart people, are using AI to try to understand problems and questions before they go to their advisor and get the final answer. So I think more and more we're going to see people going into conversations with more education. And look, I can give you my own proof because I love cars. When Edmunds.com came out and started showing you all the prices on cars, we went to Car Shop with way more data and way more savvy about it than before. So I'm just thinking there's always that thought of the robo-advisor putting the advisor out of business. Well, that's proven to be false. I don't think AI is going to put them out of business. I think it's going to make the consumer more informed and ready to have a better conversation. And I don't know if you share that or not, or have seen that kind of perspective. That's my theory.
Yeah, look, I couldn't agree more. I don't, advisors aren't going anywhere in our view. I think again, their opportunity to serve. I think your old mental model may be challenged in that, your point on, an advisor can serve 100 or 200 people. I think that with AI and with leverage and with some of this technology, that number might go from 200 to 500 or 1,000. Who knows? So I think that the access to advice might expand, which is a beautiful thing. Yeah, look, I tend to agree with you on that. I think information has never been more at consumers' fingertips, and I think to the extent that allows for better conversations with advisors, I think that's a great thing. I think the best advisors ask the best questions. Long gone are the days of individual stock picking and things like that. But a lot of the nuts and bolts of be it investment advice or risk management or estate, all that's like that isn't the differentiator. You and me, like the questions and the connection and pulling out the hopes and dreams and desires of the person sitting across the table, and then implementing a plan is the real differentiator. Because again, like at least from a business perspective, right? You and I both might have. You love cars. You and I, both might have an auto dealership on opposite sides of the street. Similar brands, same top line, same bottom line, same service revenue. All the business may look exactly the same, but our financial plans may be incredibly different.
Absolutely.
Our lifestyles may be completely different. Our needs, hopes, dreams, like all of that stuff is what drives the plan. It's not the numbers at the end of the day. And so we think that that's where the advice is so important.
So where does AI fit into your world then?
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier, like, what an incredible time to be building. I mean, the leverage, the sheer amount of product that we've been able to build in the last 12 and 24 months is incredible. We're watching our engineers' jobs change dramatically in real time, meaning, wasn't that long ago where it was all kind of hands-on keyboard and writing code. And today, 70, our CTO could give you a better answer on this, but I'll get directionally close. 70, 80, 90% of our code is, first pass is done with AI. And so they've gone from hands-on code or hands-on keyboard to, prompting and reviewing. And so the nature of that job is changing. The leverage that we get is incredible. And so it really helps us from a product development perspective. Everybody has that advantage, by the way. That's not unique to us. And so that's a wonderful thing. And then we're really able to leverage it in our product and in our platform in ways to help the advisor, which is to say we've completely eliminated the data input burden that existed, meaning the advisor doesn't have to spend time, the owner doesn't have to spend time plugging in all this data. We're leveraging AI in our platform to read and pull data from tax documents and financial statements and things like that. So what once took a lot longer is done in seconds, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man, I I have personally seen software be written that would have taken an average developer 8 to 10 hours. I've seen it done in 2 minutes, and it's unreal to see the outcomes like that. Look, we're getting close to the end here, so I'll have to get to my last question. But before I go there, what is the best way for people to find and connect with you?
Our website, RISR, www.risr.com. We're on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. My email's, jason@risr.com. So I'd love to hear from you. And appreciate you asking.
Awesome. All right. So this is one of my favorite parts of my show. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
I had incredible, I've had an incredible the good fortune of having some great mentors in my life and people that I've worked for over the years. And so this is a hard one. But the most, it's an easy one in some respects too. The most fun I've ever had in my career. So after, I said I started my career at that firm here in Philadelphia. I spent 7 or 8 years there, and knew ultimately that I wanted to do some different things. And there's a company out of Chicago called Hoopus Performance Network, and Harry Hoopus is the founder of that business. And Harry and his partner Joey Davenport built an e-learning platform and training platform for the financial services space. And they took, knew I wanted to do some different things, had no idea what I wanted to do. And they took a bet on me. And so I joined them, I don't know, this is going back 10 or 15 years at this point. But I spent 3 years with them, and it was not only the most fun I've ever had in my career, but the most I've ever learned about leadership. So both of these guys, Harry Hoopus and Joey Davenport, are some of the best minds in leadership in financial services. And so it was, like 24/7 going to school on leadership. And I learned an awful lot about how little I knew. And so they both had a tremendous impact on my life, and I'm super grateful to have spent those 3 years with them and to continue to have them in my life today.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I'm sure your team appreciates the education that you got during that time.
I've got a long way to go, and they I'm not so sure that I frustrate them far more than they appreciate it, I bet. But we've got a great team here, and we have an awful lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, as leaders, we don't get it all right. It's never the case, but
you're never
have a mindset for it, right?
As we just talked about Joey, as Joey used to say, you're never a prophet in your own hometown either. So it's good to have others come in and deliver the message as well.
Yep. All right. I want to give a big thank you to Jason Early, founder and CEO of RISR, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Jason's website at risr.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easy. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Jason, thank you so much for joining me today.
Rich, you're the man. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.